In the underbelly of Zubri City, where shadows whispered secrets and fear ruled the streets, a group of desperate men gathered in a dimly lit room. They were criminals, but not the kind who commanded respect, small-time thieves, con artists, and ex-soldiers looking for one last score. At the center of their plan was a girl, the 16-year-old daughter of Jabari Kinto, the most dreaded and wealthy in the land. She was their golden ticket, their ransom to a better life. The leader of the group, Kwame, tapped his fingers against the table. 1 million naira, split 5 ways. We snatch the girl, keep her locked up, make the call, and by the time they bring the money, we are ghosts. His crew, Musa the sharp-eyed marksman, Ton the quiet mozo, Adise the driver, and Bill the hothead, nodded in agreement. The plan was simple. Until it wasn't. The girl, named Zilla, was taken from the courtyard of her family's lavish mansion guarded by men with more bullets than words. But the crew had studied the shifts, knew the blind spots, and when the moment came, they moved like shadows in the night. She didn't scream. Didn't fight. Just stared at them with piercing golden eyes that made Bill uneasy. "This is too easy," he muttered as they stuffed her into the van. No alarms. No guards chasing them down the street. Just silence. The hideout was a forgotten mansion deep in the Moko forest, abandoned years ago. It was the perfect place, isolated, and surrounded by thick trees that swallowed sound. Zilla sat calmly in the candlelit main hall, her hands tied but her expression unreadable. The men expected crying, begging, anything to show fear. But she simply smiled, her head tilting like a curious bird. "You think my father will pay for me?" Her voice was smooth, unsettling. Kwame scoffed. "He'll pay. If he wants you alive." The first sign of trouble came at midnight. Musa, standing guard by the window, swore he saw something move in the trees. A shape, slithering through the shadows. Too big to be a man. Ton dismissed it. "Your nerves are getting the best of you." In a matter of hours, Adisa and Beo was gone. No signs of struggle. Just their guns on the floor and the smell of something foul in the air. Zilla stretched her arms, the ropes that once bound her now in tatters. "He won't be coming back." The panic started to set in. One man missing was a mistake. But two. That was something else. Musa wanted to flee. "This girl isn't normal. She's cursed." Kwame, ever the rational one, grabbed Zilla by the wrist, forcing her to look him in the eye. "What did you do?" She grinned. "Do you know the story of Mommy Water? The serpent goddess?" No one answered. "You should have. She has many children. Some take the form of women. Some take the form of nightmares." And with that, the candles flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. The remaining men armed themselves, moving together through the mansion. But the air had changed. The walls seemed to breathe. The floor, once solid, felt soft underfoot, like flesh. Then, a sound. A deep, guttural hiss. Something was in the house with them. And Zilla was gone. The silence was thick, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. Kwame gripped his pistol, his hands clammy with sweat. "We stick together," he whispered. "Nobody goes alone." But the house had other plans. Doors that had been open were now locked. Hallways stretched longer than they should. The staircase wound endlessly, leading nowhere. The walls paused as if they had veins beneath them. Musa, trembling, muttered prayers under his breath. This isn't a house. This is a tomb. Then, from the shadows, came a whisper. You wanted riches, didn't you? You wanted power. Zilla's voice. A candle flared to life in the center of the great hall, casting flickering light on the figure that stood there. It was Zilla, but not as a girl. Her skin shimmered, scales reflecting the fire. Her eyes, now fully golden, were slitted like a snake's. Her mouth stretched into an unnatural smile, revealing fangs sharp as daggers. Musa raised his gun, but before he could fire, she moved too fast. A single, sickening crunch echoed as Musa was lifted off his feet, his breath taken away by a mysterious force. Tom screamed, running in opposite directions. But the house had changed again. The doors were gone. The windows had melted into the walls. There was no way out. Kwame fell to his knees. Please, he gasped, eyes wide with terror. We didn't know. Zilla tilted her head. Ignorance does not absolve you. You wanted to steal a treasure, but you never stopped to ask if that treasure was cursed. She slithered forward, her lower body now fully transformed, a long, curling tail of glistening black and green scales. Turned, sobbed, pressing himself against the wall. Let us go. We'll never speak of this. Zilla's voice was soft, almost pitying. But you already have. The moment you touched my fate, it became yours. And then the shadows moved again, and the screaming began anew. Kwame ran blindly through the corridors, his breath ragged, his mind refusing to accept what he had seen. He could still hear Tom's gurgling choke, the sickening crack of bones, the monstrous whisper of scales slithering across the floor. He reached what should have been the front door and yanked at the handle. Nothing. The door, once wooden, had transformed into a solid wall of smooth, pulsing flesh. A shiver ran down his spine as a voice coiled around his mind like smoke. You cannot leave, Kwame. You belong to me now. He turned, heart pounding, and there she was, Zilla, no longer a girl but a towering, coiled entity. Her serpentine body gleamed in the dim candlelight, her golden eyes locked onto him, unblinking, hungry. Kwame had seen enough death to last a lifetime. He knew when a fight was lost. And so, on trembling legs, he did the only thing he could, he knelt. Spare me, he whispered. I was only after the money. I didn't mean to. Zilla tilted her head, considering him. Your greed led you here. Your ambition blinded you. But perhaps you are of some use. She slithered closer, her presence overwhelming, her voice dripping with something ancient and cruel. Pledge yourself to me, Kwame. Serve me, and I may let you live. Kwame swallowed hard. The alternative was death. Perhaps worse. I pledge. I am yours. Zilla smiled, revealing rows of glistening fangs. Good. Then you shall bear my mark. Pain exploded in his chest as she pressed a single, clawed finger to his skin. The world blurred, and Kwame screamed as darkness swallowed him whole. Kwame collapsed to the floor, his body writhing in agony as an unbearable heat seared his chest. He clutched at his skin, but the mark was already there, burned into him, a twisting, blackened symbol that pulsed with an eerie glow. His vision blurred, the pain stealing his breath. He could hear Zilla's voice, whispering in his mind. "You are mine now, Kwame. My servant. My voice in the world of men." He gasped, forcing himself to look up. Bayo and Adisa were nowhere to be seen, only their echoes remained in the cursed mansion. Had they escaped? Or had the shadows swallowed them whole? Zilla's towering form loomed over him, her golden eyes narrowing. "You will go back to the city. You will spread my name. You will bring me offerings." Kwame's heart pounded. "And if I refuse?" A cold smile curled on her lips. "You won't." Days later, Kwame stumbled back into Zubri City. He was thinner, paler, haunted. No one questioned where he had been, but the underworld took notice. Kwame had changed. He no longer sought riches. He no longer feared men. His eyes had the same golden glint as Zilla's, and when he spoke, people listened, compelled by an unseen force. He whispered of power, of a goddess who rewarded those who served her. The first offering came that night. A man desperate for wealth entered Kwame's hideout, asking for Zilla's blessing. He was never seen again. And thus, the legend began.